as well. So this was the workspace which we created yesterday. Fine. I'll start from that, and I told you about the concept of jar file, right? Every Java file is converted to a class file, and jar file is a collection of many class files in Java, right? Hold on, let the workspace load and then I'll tell you in detail. Fine. So this is day 1. Okay, and inside it I made some programs. Okay, I'll delete this one, I don't need it. Hold on, I made this first Java program.java, and I told you how to simply execute a single Java file, right? And what all this is public, what is static, what is void and all, we'll look at it later on, but how to execute a simple Java program file, right? And I told you every Java file is converted to a class file. If you go to the physical location where this project is lying, right, you will be using right click on the project properties option a lot during the during learning Selenium, and also um, be familiar with it, right? The shortcut is you click on the project and hit Alt Enter. You'll get the properties of the project. Alt Enter, right? In the resource tab, you will see the location of the project. Okay, this is the location, and I told you that in the source folder you have the Java program, right? And when you compile the program, in the bin folder the corresponding class file goes. So every Java file is converted to a class file, and group of class files, they consist of, they are actually represented by a single file known as jar file, right? When you have got number of class files right, you want to deliver all the class files to the client, you bundle them into a single file known as the jar file and give it to the client. Right. Now, hold on just a minute. Just a minute. Please ignore what I am doing right now. Right. Now, when you go to the Selenium website, okay, just a minute. You go to Google and you type download Selenium. I told you yesterday, right, how to download Selenium. Some people were asking me questions after the class. So I'm repeating again how to download Selenium jar files. Okay. You can go to this website, seleniumhq.org, and you can download the Selenium jar files from here, okay, through this to the Java client version, right? What is this Selenium server? This is a single jar file, again 2.28 version. It consists of all the jar files which you download here, but the thing is, if you are working with grid, then you need to download this one, right? If you are working standalone on WebDriver or something, you can download this one. Okay, anyways, you can download anything, both of them will work, that's not a big deal. Okay, so if you go to, after downloading, like, you'll see a folder like this, Selenium 2.28. This is the latest version. Fine. And in this you will see these two jar files. Along with it, in the library folder, you will have all the other jar files. These jar files are from the people who made Selenium. Now I will import these jar files into Eclipse project so that I am able to work with Selenium. In order to work with Selenium, you need to import these jar files in Eclipse. There is no installable, there is no exe file for Selenium. Don't think that you will get an exe file, you'll install it, and then you'll get an icon on your desktop like Qtp or some other tool. No, it's not like that. Selenium is configured on system. It is not installed. You just need to download these jar files and import them in Eclipse. Okay, what I mean to say is that, suppose what I'll do is I'll create a new project. Day 2, fine, right? And in day 2 you will see that the Java jar files are present by default. With every project you get the jar files of Java by default. But if I have to include the Selenium jar files, I'll have to include them separately in the project. Okay, so how to do that? You will have to go to the properties of the project, right? In properties, you will get this option Java build path. Okay, Java build path the screen will have various windows like source, projects, libraries, order and export and all. Go to the libraries section. In this you will see JRE system library. This is actually Java which is installed on your system. It is added in the project. And if you need to add additional jars, you can click on this icon over here, add external jars, right? You click on add external jars and you go to the location where you have downloaded the jars. Like in my PC it's in C drive. Now in this folder you have to add these two Selenium jar files. Okay. Along with that, don't forget to add the jar files under lib directory. Many people forget this and then Selenium never works and they actually get confused, right? Add the jar files in the lib as well. So these are the jar files of Selenium which you have added. Click on OK. That's it. Now Selenium is configured on your system in Eclipse and you can start working with Selenium. Okay, if you look at the reference libraries, under the reference libraries section, you will see the jar files which are added onto your project. Okay, now in order to work with these jar files, you need to understand the concept of object-oriented programming in Java language. So I'll come over to Java, then I'll move over to Selenium, right? I'll teach you some concepts in Java and then I'll tell you how to use those in Selenium, right? And moreover, uh, in this course I'm assuming that you know basic programming, that is what an if statement is, what loops are and all stuff like that, like how to write a for loop and all, because if you're not aware of that then you can go to my site and just watch the sample videos over there. Okay, and in that, like especially if you go to my site and you go to free Selenium videos tutorial and you can actually watch these two tutorials, you will get a lot of idea on Java. Okay, so that's the thing. And what I'll be starting with now is the concept of object oriented programming. Okay, now for example, in the source folder of this project I make a new class. I go and select new class and I give the name of the class as, say, a very simple class called city. Okay, a new class city. Now this city class is like this. It's got no main function. If it's got no main function, I cannot execute it. If I try to run it, it will not run. Okay, it will search for main types and all everything, and in the end, hold on, it will not run. Okay, you have to have the function public static void main in the Java file to execute it, right? But this is a standalone file. Fine. Now what are the properties of the city? I can give properties of the city in a file. I can write over here string population. Fine. String population. This is one of the properties of the city. Then, oh, sorry, int population. Right. String name. This is another property. Okay. Then you can have a function like public void say get population, right? Inside it I will print uh, like city has population or I will simply print like this. I'll print the name of the city followed by the population of the city. Right. Okay. So get population is a function. These two are global variables. Global variables means that they are inside the class, they are not inside the city. Right. Now in a class you can also have static members. Right. For example, I declare a variable called static string country. Right. Or public static uh, void uh, say some function xyz. Okay, I'm not able to think about it right now. Right, some function xyz. I'll change the name later on. Fine. So uh, now you see that some of the members of this class are static, some of them are not static. Okay, technically we call this type of function as non-static function, and technically we call this type of function as static function. Similarly, for these variables, these are all global variables. Fine. We call this kind of variable as non-static global variable. And as the logic goes, this type of variable is static global variable. Now, what is the difference between static and non-static? Okay, why do we use it and how will it be helpful in Selenium? Let's look at that. Right, now suppose I make a new class in this package itself. Okay, I'll make a new class, call that class test city, right, with the main function. Okay, with the main function. Now from this class I'm going to access the city class. Right, don't confuse this with testing or something. Right, I'm not going into testing right now, I'm just telling you the concepts. Right, now in this test city class the main function is there, so that means it can be executed. I can run this because the main function is there. Okay, now in test city class um, I will be creating the objects of city class. Now what do you mean by creating object of city class? First of all, let us see the syntax. Okay, let us write like this: new city. Okay, let us write simply new city. I can write this any number of times, 3 times. So what will happen is, technically in the memory you will have 3 objects of the city class generated. Look, I'm teaching you Java, I'm not going to Selenium directly, because I don't want to make the mistake which most people do. They directly jump over to Selenium and they get confused a little bit, right? Or they just mug up the things. Fine, understand the concepts. When you write city, okay, 3 objects are formed in the memory of the city. In the memory, 3 objects are formed of the city class. Each object will have all the non-static members inside it. Remember, inside the object only non-static members are there. For example, name, population. Name, population. These were the 2 non-static members, right, of the class. Okay, so these variables will be there in every object. Okay, but to access the objects, you need object reference. This is the object. Object is different than object reference. You have to write city C1 equals to new city like this. City C2 equals to new city. City C3 equals to new city. So C1, C2, C3, what they become is they become the references to the object. Okay, it becomes like this. C1 will point towards this, C2 will point towards this, and C3 will point towards this. The references, they help us to retrieve the properties of the object. Right now every object has got name and population, right? These two are the properties of every object. Okay, so now if I write over here C1 dot name equals to city A, you will get the option C1 dot, you will get the option population as well. Population equals to city B, sorry, population equals to 100. Similarly, when I write C2 dot, you will get the name option. You can equate it to say B city, and C2 dot population is 200, right? Look, I'm taking a very simple example with you. And similarly, C3 dot name is city C, and C3 dot population is 300. So in the memory, okay, in the memory, you will see that this will be city A, the name would be for this B, and this will be C. 100, 200 and 300, the populations will be like that. Okay, look, the variables, there are just like two variables, name and population, but every object will have a different state of these variables. Okay, right? Now inside the object, what else was present inside the city class? Inside the city class, you had the get population function as well. You had this function, right? So inside the object, you will have the get population function as well, because it is non-static. Inside the object, all the non-static stuff is present. Okay, the static thing is not present inside the object, right? So now if you run this, if you write over here C1 dot, you will see the option get population coming up. Similarly C2 dot get population. Similarly C3 dot get population. Okay, so when you run this code, when C1 dot get population is called, right, this function, it will print the name and population of C1. When C2 call this, it will print the name and population of C2, right? So if you run this program, you get an output like this. Okay, city A, B and C. So this is what objects are. Okay, this is the object. It represents all the non-static things in a class, and C1 is the object reference. Object reference will point towards a particular object. If I write over here, suppose now C1 equals to C2, so what will happen in the memory? C1 will stop pointing here. It will now point to the location where C2 is pointing, to B, right? So if I write again, if I write this line, hold on, I put a demarcation boundary, and if I write again C1 dot get population, C2 dot get population, C3 dot get population, if I run this, in the second run, C1 and C2 were pointing towards the same object, so that's why they gave the state of the same object, right? So objects are different, object references are different. Objects, they are at a fixed location in the memory, but object references, they can change themselves. They can point from one object to another object and all like that. Okay, I'm telling you for this for your own knowledge, right? In Selenium you might not feel the need of going in that depth, okay, but when you're stuck somewhere, concepts like these, they help you. Generally, if everything is working fine, nobody will try to understand these concepts. These concepts, they only come into picture when you are stuck badly. Okay, if you're clear with these concepts and if you're stuck in Selenium, you know how to come out of this situation, right? So that's the difference. That's why you need to learn them. Okay. Now I just talked about non-static. Non-static is something which is present inside the object, okay, and which is sorry, the property of the object, right? Now let's see how we use this in Selenium. Okay, how we use this in Selenium. Let's make a new class called as Selenium Basics. Now what I did was I created a class city, okay, and I created the objects of that class city in test city, right? Now in Selenium you don't have to create classes like that. Everything is inbuilt, okay. There's no rocket science involved. Only thing is you need to be smart enough to read the documentation of Selenium and to understand what it does. It's quite huge, okay. If you go to google.com and you just type again download Selenium, go to Selenium downloads and go to Java doc. This is the API of Selenium. API means application programming interface, or the documentation, Java docs, right? So out here you have all these classes. These all are inbuilt classes in Selenium. Now one of the class is Firefox driver, right? If you read this class, an implementation, like basically this class, it helps you to work on Firefox, okay. All the classes and all in Selenium, they are inbuilt, okay. You really don't need to build your own classes or something. Like for example, if I write over here new Firefox driver, that's it, okay. Now this class, not able to okay, fine, I hope you are able to hear me now. My wireless got disconnected for a while. Anyways, like out here, this is the Firefox driver class, okay. It helps you to execute the test cases on Firefox. Now everything is inbuilt. You really don't have to worry about making your own classes, how to open Firefox, how do I go to that website and all. That Selenium will do. Everything in Selenium is inbuilt, okay. Now all you need to do is that you need to create the object of this class, new Firefox driver. Where is this class present? This class is present in somewhere in the jar files, okay. If you want to find it out, right, click on this icon over here, link with editor, okay. Click on this icon, link with editor, and then hold the control button of your keyboard. Hold the control button of your keyboard and this class will look like a link. Click on that, and in one of the jar files this class will be highlighted. This is the Firefox driver.class. It is present in Selenium Java 2.28.0.jar. Okay, or just hit control. The second way is, these things they'll help you later on. Right now you might not find the relevance of finding the class, but sometimes it helps a lot. You press Control Shift and T. Combination of Control Shift and T. T for telephone of your keyboard. You will get this type of window. And in this you type, as soon as I type FIRE, I get all the files which are available to me starting with FIRE. And one of them is Firefox driver. That means Eclipse can locate this class. Okay, so now you write new Firefox driver, you move your mouse over this error, you'll get the option import the Firefox driver. You need to import this class from the jar files. So you click on import and it gets imported on the top and error goes away. Now when I run this program, it will create the object of that class Firefox driver and it will open up a blank Firefox window. You see that? Right? Now this object had no reference. I can give it a reference. I can write Firefox driver d1 equals to new Firefox driver. Right? And now if I write d1 dot, I will get all the non-static functions inside the Firefox driver. You see there are so many functions. Okay, there are a lot of functions. As we proceed with the course, you will actually come to know everything, right? But like you can get one of the functions, like for example there's a function called get. Get function will navigate you to a particular URL. Okay, now all of this is inbuilt in Firefox driver class. In the documentation, if you scroll down, you will see these are all the functions, and all these are also the functions. Okay, so now in this you write driver.get the URL. You give the URL to which you want to navigate. Now many times people they directly give the URL. For example, say bbc.com. This will not work. This will give you an error. Okay, you have to give the protocol. It is very necessary. You have to write HTTP or HTTPS, whatever it is. Navigate to this particular website. Protocol is very important. If you don't give it, you will get an error in Selenium. Okay, now if you run this code, you will see a blank Firefox opening up and it will navigate to bbc.com. You see that? How simple is it to create objects of the classes and use all the non-static functions of those classes in Selenium. Now similarly, this was Firefox driver. If you want to work on Chrome, you have a class known as Chrome driver. You go to the documentation and you will see that there is a class called as hold on, before I move further, okay, there is okay, I'll tell you at the end of the class, don't worry. There is a class known as Chrome driver. Fine. In this class is actually responsible for executing your tests on Chrome browser, as the name suggests. Okay, you can create the object of this class and you can execute the tests on Chrome. Many times people will get error while executing the scripts on Firefox driver as well. So Firefox won't be initialized or something. Look, now there are possible reasons. Okay, there are possible reasons that Firefox driver is not working, right? One of them is like right now the latest version of Firefox is Firefox 18. Don't use that. Better use say Firefox 15 or 14 or 13 like that. Okay, don't work on the latest one, right? You might get error. Okay. Now secondly, uh, many times people they get errors related to binary missing. You get an error while starting the Firefox driver that the binary is missing for Firefox. Okay. You also have the solution for that. Hold on. I'm not remembering the code to be very honest for that solution. Hold on. I gave the solution to one of my students. Yeah. This guy got the error and hold on. Yeah, he took training from me. Yeah, this is the one. So this guy was also getting the error. Okay, when he was starting Firefox, he was getting a error known as, hold on. Yeah, he was getting error, and what I did was I fixed it like this by writing the code. Copy selection. Right. You need to give the path of Firefox binary. That means in case you are getting the error for binary, that the binary is missing, you need to give this kind of a code. Firefox binary equals to new Firefox binary, new file, and you need to give the path of firefox.exe installed in your system. Right? Sometimes Selenium is not able to find firefox.exe, that is the binary of Firefox. So you have to manually set the path like this and then initialize Firefox driver by providing binary in the constructor. I'll tell you what all this is, what a constructor is, but in case you get the error, you can use this kind of coding and you can remove that error. Very few people will encounter that. People especially working on Windows Vista platform, they actually encounter this kind of error many times. Windows Vista. Okay. So, right. Now, coming over to the Chrome driver. Okay, this was Firefox driver. Now, similarly, Chrome driver, you can create the object. You can write over here. Chrome driver d2 equals to new Chrome driver. Okay, import it. You have to import Chrome driver, right? And if I run this code, all of you will get this error. Okay. Now don't be afraid of the errors, right? The error says the path to driver executable must be set by the WebDriver.chrome.driver system property. Don't be afraid with this kind of error. Okay. When I get this kind of error, how do I troubleshoot? I copy the error, go to Google and paste it on Google, and there are n number of solutions available. I read the solution and fix it. So this is very important. This is how you do it, right? Or the solution for this, I'll give you the solution. The solution for this is you go to the Selenium website, seleniumhq.org, and you go to the download section. Fine. And out here, third-party browsers not developed by Selenium HQ. One of the third-party browser is Chrome. You can go to the download page of this Chrome, and you need to download an exe file. You need to download chromedriver.exe. Okay. Don't confuse this with the exe of Chrome, but this is a little different. You can download it from here. I hope everybody is able to hear me clearly, right? So this is Chrome driver Windows, and if you open the containing folder, this is the one. You extract this and you will get this exe file. Don't run this exe file, it will not give you anything. Okay, just place it anywhere. For example, I'll place it in my H drive. Okay, I am placing this exe in H drive, and you need to write a line over here. For Chrome this is mandatory. You need to set a system property. You need to write over here system dot set property WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver, and you need to give the path of the exe file which you downloaded, that is H drive. Inside H drive, Chrome driver dot exe. Fine. In Java you have to give double slash. Right. Now that's what the error was exactly as well. The error was saying that the path to driver executable must be set by this property. The driver executable is downloaded from the seleniumhq.org website. Okay. Now if you run this, you will see Chrome opening up. Okay. Similarly, with the Chrome as well, if you write d2.get http say bbc.com again, so you will go to bbc.com. Make sure you give the protocol, don't miss the protocol. People encounter the error when they miss the protocol. Okay, so if you run this, you will see the Chrome opening up and going to bbc.com. Okay, now along with the Chrome, a log file is also generated. When you start Chrome driver, a log file is also generated. That is, you see this message over here, log equals to e drive tool selenium this. So what happens is that if you are working with Chrome driver, inside your project, if you refresh your project, right click on the project and go to refresh, you will see a Chrome driver.log file generated. If you open this, you will have a lot of information about Chrome driver, the version and all, everything. Okay, this might be not a very user friendly thing for you, but you'll get used to it every time you see this file and all, everything. What is the platform, what is the browser and all, everything. Okay, now this is how you work with Chrome. What about IE? Well, the problem is I am working on a Windows Server operating system and I have got i6 with me. I don't have i7 or i8. Okay, but to work with IE, I'll tell you the procedure, and if you follow it correctly, you will be successful. You have to first of all, switch the protected mode in IE to same levels. In i8 and 9 and all, there is a protected mode. Okay. No, not for Firefox. Yeah. Right. In IE there is a protected mode and you need to switch the protected mode to the same levels. For example, you can go to Google and just type, rather I would say turn off the protected mode. For all the levels, turn it off. Instead of making it to the same levels, just go here and write turn off protected mode in i8, i9. You'll get the steps. Okay, you'll get the steps, just follow those steps. Right, after that, go to the same site seleniumhq.org. Similar to Chrome exe, you need to download the Chrome driver.exe, right, for working on Chrome. Similarly, you have For Internet Explorer, you have got Internet Explorer driver server, which you have to download depending on your machine, whether it is 32 bits Windows Internet Explorer, not depending on your machine, but depending on your IE, whether it is a 32-bit IE or a 64-bit IE. Fine. Depending on it, you need to download the iDriver.exe, right? And in my PC, here is the iDriver.exe. This is the one. Okay, maybe I'll put this in H drive as well, and you can write over here system dot set property WebDriver dot I dot driver, and in the value you give the path of the iDriver server.exe. Fine. You have, there is no exe for Firefox, but for Chrome and IE you have to download H drive iDriver server.exe, and after that you can create the object of the internal class known as Internet Explorer driver. This is the one. Okay, and similarly you can write over here Internet Explorer driver. Hold on. I equals to new Internet Explorer driver, right? And if you run this, I'll just comment the Chrome part so that I'm able to run the IE part. That's it. So if you run this, you will see IE. Although I have i6, it works, right? And maybe you can navigate it to any website. Again, you can write over here uh, I.get the website bbc.com, and if you run this, it will navigate. See, it's going to bbc.com, right? This is i6 in a highly secured mode on my server. That's why I was getting this message. But this is how you can work with IE as well, right? So this is what the relevance of objects is there in Selenium. Like, I created the class city, I created different objects of the city class, and I explained you. Similarly, in Selenium there are internal classes and you need to create the objects of those classes. Now what about the static members? I explained you, fine, non-static, you create the object and you access them. Fine. What about static? What is static? Okay. Now in my explanation, this diagrammatic explanation which I gave you, fine, the static things which are there in the class, okay, they are not the part of the objects. They reside at a common memory location and they are common for all the objects. Okay. For example, in the city.java file, country is static. Okay. Now to access this country variable, I don't need to create the object of the class. To access static, you can directly access from the class name. That is, you can write over here, city is the class name, dot, you write city dot and you will see all the static members, country, xyz function. City dot country is, say, India. So all the cities will have the country as India, right? Okay. Now This is what the relevance of static is. Now if you look at the Selenium basics which I created, and I was writing system.setProperty, what was this line? System is an internal class in Java. I am not creating the object of that class. I am writing system.setProperty. That is called the setProperty function. Now this setProperty, if you move your mouse over this, you will get the description. This is the function public static string setProperty. This is a static function. You can call this directly with the name of the class dot the function. Similarly, like I have this Firefox driver class. I created the object of Firefox driver. If I write Firefox driver dot, you will get many static properties in that class as well, which can be accessed without creating the object of that class. Right? Similarly, you have got Internet Explorer driver class. If you write Internet Explorer driver dot, you will get, there's just one property introduced. Ignore this class, right? Introduce flagness by ignoring security domain. So basically, a class can have static as well as non-static properties. The static properties, they can be accessed directly with the name of the class and putting a dot sign in front of them. Then for accessing the non-static properties, you need to create the objects of that class. Okay, and that's what we did. We created objects of IE, Firefox, Chrome. Now there are many other drivers as well. For example, there is a driver known as, hold on, Safari driver. To work with this Safari driver, you need to register with Apple as a developer. Okay, I need to register with Apple as an Apple developer, and this is not so stable. Many things, they don't work in this. That's why, in my pre-recorded videos as well, I have not included this driver. For example, pop-up management and all is very difficult. Most of the times it never happens. It's got defects. Okay. Now similarly, you have got for Android, you have got Android driver. For iPhone, you have got iPhone driver. Right? So there are drivers available for various operations. Right? You have something known as remote WebDriver, which is used in Selenium Grid. When I teach you Grid, I'll tell you that. Okay. So for every operation, there is a driver involved. But the question which comes into my mind is, suppose fine, for Android there is a separate driver, for iPhone there is a separate driver class, for Chrome there is a separate driver, for Firefox there is a separate driver. If I have to click on a link on a website using Chrome or using Firefox or using Android or using IE, what will be the command? Will the command differ in all the drivers? Got my point? Every browser or every entity has its own driver. And suppose if I have to perform a basic operation, suppose I now need to go to google.com and enter some search text, right? Will the command to enter search text in all the drivers be different? The answer is no. And to technically prove the answer, you need to understand the concepts of interfaces in Java. Okay. Now the next topic would be the concept of interface in Java and how do you use the concept of interface in Selenium, right? So I'll be taking up that tomorrow. We'll stop here. If anybody has got any questions, you can feel free to ask. Anybody having any questions regarding the course, regarding Selenium as a tool, or regarding today's class, anything? You can move your mouse to the top of the window, you can click on the chat option and you can ask the question to me, or you can click on the participants tab, unmute yourself and ask a question. You can also add me on Skype. My Skype ID same as my website name, that is QTP Selenium. Yeah, Pooja, system.setProperty. Why is it used? It is used because these are the third party drivers. Okay, these are not developed by Selenium guys. So you have to download the exe files of the third party drivers in which maybe they have performed some customized operations in them, and you need to set them in the system property. When you initialize Internet Explorer driver, it will pick up the system property and it will use it. If I don't do that, I will not be able to work with Selenium, iDriver or Chrome driver. Yeah, Pooja, WebDriver D1 equals to new. Yeah, I'll talk about this command tomorrow. The question being asked is, when do we use this kind of a command? WebDriver D1 equals to new Firefox driver. I have written Firefox driver D1 equals to new Firefox driver. But practically we use this kind of a command, but to make you understand this, I need you to understand the concept of interfaces first. Okay. So any other question? Alright then, we will end up for today, right? And see you.